Scale Drawings. This is a digital lesson on scaling up and scaling down, and this is the Thanksgiving version. So this is a lot of fun for the students. They get to use the fill color feature of Google Slides to create their new drawings. So it starts with a definition of what a scale drawing is, and then it gives the students some definitions. So they're going to need all of these vocabulary words on the final slide, so they can refer back to slide 3 if they need to. Now they're going to start on slide 4. So here they have a figure, they have a rectangle. Start with one that's simple. And we want it to show a new figure with a scale factor of 2. So what you want to do is take each of the measurements of the sides and multiply by 2. So to do that, students are just going to click and hold in one of the squares, and they scroll across until they find the number of squares that they want to fill in. And here now we have a 6 by 4. So once it's highlighted, then they can come up here to the fill color feature and they can choose any color they like. Now we want to also look at what happens to the perimeter when we have a scale factor of 2. So the perimeter of the smaller figure is 10 units if you count around the outside. The figure of the larger drawing is 20 units if you count around the outside. So you can see that what happens to the perimeter when you're scaling up by a scale factor of 2, you just multiply the perimeter by 2. Now the next figure is just a little bit more difficult. So here we're going to scale up by a scale factor of 3. So each of the sides we're going to increase multiplying by 3. So here we're going to have a side of 6. So again, click and hold in one of the squares, and while you're holding down, scroll across until you have the number that you want to fill in. Not that one. Let's try that again. Should be 6, and come up to the fill color feature. Again, they can choose any color they like, and you can only shade in a rectangle at a time. And here they have a new figure, same shape, just scaled up by a scale factor of 3. Okay, then again, we're going to look at the perimeter. So the perimeter of the smaller figure would be 10 units. And the larger figure, if you count around the outside, will be 30 units. And again, you can see that the perimeter is multiplied by the scale factor, the perimeter of the smaller figure. Multiplied by the scale factor, you'll get the perimeter of the larger figure. And then the next one is a little bit tricky. You might even want to do this with the students. So this one, scale factor of 3, so we're going to multiply each of the sides by 3. And they're going to get something, let's try this. They're going to get something that looks like this. Again, choose any color they like. And so if the students have difficulty with this, you can just do it. You can do part of it with them and then see if they can finish it on their own. Now on this one, the perimeter is going to be 12 units. And they could probably guess what the perimeter of the larger figure is going to be, 36 units. We multiply 12 times the scale factor. Now the next one's just a review of what happens to the perimeter. So if the scale factor is 2, the perimeter of the new figure is 2 times. So they're just going to type in 2. Scale factor is 3. The perimeter of the new figure is 3 times larger. Now we're going to look and see what happens when you have a scale factor of 1/2. Now this means that you're going to create a figure that's same shape but smaller if the scale factor is a fraction less than 1. So what happens here is we're going to multiply each of the measurements by 1/2 or just divide by 2. So here if you multiply these sides that are 6 by 2, you're going to get 3. And then there'll just be a blank in the center. And it's going to look just like this. And that's when the scale factor is a fraction less than 1. Now the next one, we're not going to use the fill color feature. We're going to use these bars. They're movable. And we're going to draw this figure using these 7 pieces with a scale factor of 1/2. That means each of your measurements you're going to divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2. Now it gets a little tricky on here. So you might want to do part of this with the students also. So I would start at the bottom where the measurements are a little easier, divide by 2, and you're just going to get some sides that are 2 by 2 by 2. And so to make these smaller, these sides, if you want to decrease, you click and hold on one of these little blue circles, and then you can move it. You can make it smaller, you can make it shorter, you can make it longer. Now to find the point here, we're going to look at the larger figure. If we count up from the bottom, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That means if we divide by 2, it will be counting up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know the tip is going to be right here. And then these shorter sides here are going to be 2 divided by 2 would be 1. So again, just click, let them play around with this. Just click and hold on these little blue circles, and then they can make them shorter or longer. Move them where they like. Okay, so there we have another figure that is reduced by a scale factor of 1/2. The next thing we want them to see is what happens to the area. Now this figure, very simple, here is a 3 by 3. So if we have a scale factor of 2, that means it's now going to be a 6 by 6. Okay, fill color, can use any color I like. But let's look at the area. So the area length times width. The smaller figure, it's going to be 3 times 3 or 9 square units. The larger figure, 6 by 6 or 36 square units. Now, when you're looking at the area, you're not going to multiply by the scale factor, but you are going to use the scale factor. So you're going to multiply by the scale factor squared. 2 squared would be 4, so I just multiply 9 times 4. And you're going to do the same thing on the next figure also. And then a little review of what happens to the area. And then the final slide, you're going to use these terms. Again, you can go back and refer to slide 3. And you're going to drag and drop these into the correct place in the sentence frames. So that is a lesson on scale drawings. This is a Thanksgiving version.